Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the You, Me, and BTC podcast. We've been chatting for a few minutes already now, and I think this will be a fun show. I am Daniel Brown, and I'm here with
Tim Baker.
And we have two amazing, super fantastic, out-of-this-world special guests with us today. Number one, Michael W. Dean, host of Freedom Fiends, which airs on LRN.FM, and a developer and thinker behind BipCoin, not Bitcoin, BipCoin, and Dot-Bip, which is a DNS type system that he's hoping to build on top of BipCoin. And those are some of our topics for today with first guest Michael W. Dean. Thanks for joining us today.
I'm honored, man. I actually contacted you guys. I usually don't do that, and actually, when people contact me and say interview me, I usually say no, just because I'm like, oh, don't bother me. But we also, out of like over 1,000 shows on the Freedom Fiends, we've done about 20 interviews. We don't do many. You guys do more than that, don't you? Of interviews. I heard one show about you guys. There was no interview. The other thing is, like, I contacted you because I wanted to be on your show specifically, and I haven't contacted any other shows and said, hey, interview us.
Well, that means the world.
I really like your show. I'm not kissing your ass. If you think I'm kissing your ass, I can say horrible things about you too, but I really liked your show. I was like, what the fuck is this? When I heard it on LRN driving around in my car.
Well, I gotta say that means the world, and it all comes down to, I guess, which episode you listen to, and I'm glad you caught a good one, because you never know with us. We've gotten some hate mail before, so it could happen, a bad episode, or maybe that means it was a good episode. I don't know, but well,
hate mail means somebody's listening anyway.
Exactly. Well, that voice was our next guest, Derrick Slopey, who does a little bit with Agorist hosting, and he is also helping out with these projects. So, Derrick, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, good to be here.
He does a lot with Agorist hosting, actually.
Okay, all right. Well, great to know. I've heard great things about it, so I hope people will look into it. But yeah, let's get started then with BipCoin. I guess I think that's the easiest place to start. So,
Derrick, can we have Derrick speak up a little bit? He's seemed about half the volume of you guys to me.
How's that, guys?
Perfect.
That's better.
Sounds
like you're on radio, son.
Good to be here tonight.
Audio Nazi.
This is what you get when you have an unchecked police state. Is live sound checks. That's what Angela Keaton said before she quit the Freedom Fiends recently.
Oh man!
Michael sent me this microphone so that I would sound good.
I did.
I think Angela is our most, I forget the word we used, our most frequent guest. We've had her 3 times, I think.
She's great.
Yeah, I think we've had her the most. So, yeah, so BipCoin, there we are. So just tell us what the heck it is, Michael, and what you're planning to do with it.
Oh, it's just a clone of Bytecoin. Okay, let's go home.
All right, see you guys next week. Peace.
No, thanks. Peace out. Basically, it is more or less a clone of Bytecoin, not the latest version, but the last non-beta version of Bytecoin, with nifty branding of kitty cats, and not stupid kitty cats like Catcoin or Kitacoin or whatever that thing that went nowhere was, and not something else like Dogecoin. It's actually the cat that lives in the house. My wife and I, one of them. And let's see what else. What's unique about it? Not a whole lot. But we're getting there. There's reasons why you should care.
It's good stuff.
Other than this, I'm getting the due diligence, like total upfront, painful honesty out of the way, so we can really talk about, so people don't go, oh, they're just trying to hype this thing.
Well, yeah, that's one of the first things that I would ask too. So we'll get there too.
It's a CryptoNote coin. There's about a dozen of them. There's about 640 cryptocurrencies traded on exchanges. We're one of them, but we're in the small, tiny class of them called CryptoNote, which are the ones that have a little bit different code, a lot different code, and a few different things about them that are basically improvements on Bitcoin and built-in mixing of transactions. So there's enough people using the network, and there are now, with BipCoin, you can send basically really anonymous transactions that you cannot look at the blockchain and say, 200 bips went from this address to this address. It won't tell you that.
Yeah, I had a fun time with CryptoNote a few days ago. I've heard of it before, and I've heard of the coins and stuff, but I never actually dove into it until I started talking with you. So I decided to go to the CryptoNote website and read some of the explanations and the white paper and stuff. And it's fascinating stuff. I mean, I know a little bit about cryptography because I like Bitcoin and I support Bitcoin and encryption and stuff. And I'm decent with math and I'm a developer and stuff. So I could understand a little bit of it. And
join our team now. We need you.
Well, I mean, if you need help, I'm if I could find time, I'm all for it.
I pay you in buttons and stickers. Did you get the buttons and stickers?
I have not as of yesterday, but I didn't check today. So, but
man, you will be festooned with buttons and stickers if you come work for us, son.
All right,
don't steal him away from this podcast. He's keeping this running.
Buy buttons and stickers with your Bitcoin.
Oh, we sell. Yeah, we already sell. We take BipCoin for buttons and stickers too.
When people send us merch, I don't like to tell Tim because then he thinks he deserves some of it.
He's like, shut up. Don't mention that, please. Don't mention that and the T-shirts.
If he wants some and you guys didn't get enough, I'll send more. I'm very.
We'll be good.
I cyberbag so I could be generous with.
He'll just have to wait a month until I'm home for Christmas because I'm not shipping them across the country for him.
I'll ship them across the country. Tim, talk to me later.
Okay.
Oh, geez. Well, hey, one thing about CryptoNote that I want to ask is, I know some of the top anonymous coins right now are Dash and Monero, and I've heard great things about both. We even had Monero as one of our first big sponsors. They sent us to a Bitcoin conference in 2013, I believe, maybe 14.
Nice.
And that was a ton of fun.
Wow.
But I haven't.
We'll send you to the 7-Eleven.
Nice. All right.
Buy you a hot dog.
A big gulp or whatever.
Oh, one of those hot dogs? I don't want one of those.
Yeah, we don't have that big heroin money that Monero has. Somebody actually made a meme, an awesome meme that was like, 2 panels left and right, and the left side had our logo with the kitty cat, and on the right it had Monero's. It had Fluffy Ponies, the main developer. It had a fluffy pony, which is kind of his icon, and it said on the left, it said, BipCoin, we have kitty cats. Monero, we have heroin.
Yeah. What about kitty cats on heroin? Are those allowed anywhere in there?
No, but somebody said that the cat, my cat, whose name is BipCat, we named it's BipCoin is not named after Bitcoin. BipCoin is named after the after the cat BipCat on the logo. Who someone said looks like a cat who smoked too much hash. There's no hash in my house. I don't do drugs, but BipCat is really surly and loving and needy, which is probably how someone who smoked a lot of hash would be. So really sweet and cranky.
Well,
so,
that reminds me. You slipped there and said BipCot. I totally forgot to mention that too. That's probably my favorite project. From you guys. I've written. Yeah. I haven't released them yet, but I've been slowly working on some WordPress plugins. And my first idea was to the easiest part is the header, so I'm going to put the BipCot license in the header, and so that's been sitting there for several months now, and I love that. So for our listeners, go for it, Michael or Derek. Tell us about BipCot.
Well, BipCot, the BipCot no government license is something that Derek and I came up with a few years ago on earlier projects we did, like the MeowBit plugin. We did the MeowBit plugin for Namecoin back when we thought Namecoin had a chance. No, it's still traded. Like, people laugh when they like dismiss me when I say Namecoin's dead, because it's alive and well and it's in the top 30, market cap cryptocurrencies. But that's basically because it was the first altcoin, and it's very easily and commonly merge mined with Bitcoin. It's kind of like the sludge at the bottom of the beer vat that you make into brewer's yeast, which has some value, but it's just a byproduct of mining Bitcoin. It actually has the second. Did you guys know this? That Namecoin has the second. This may be different now with a couple of the new currencies, but it has one of the largest hash power networks.
Okay. Wow.
It's huge because it's
because of the merged mining. Now something else.
Right.
There are some other merged miners now, but I don't know what they are. There's at least one other prominent one.
Yeah, but Namecoin, I say it's dead because it's had 5 years to be used for distributed DNS. And, there's like 100,000 squatted domains and there's like 30, .bit websites. I own 10, Derrick owns 10, and the, Namecoin developers own 10.
Yeah.
It's dead. It's had its chance. It's not going to make it. There's fundamental problems with it. And, I'll get into that, but people say, oh, you just don't like Namecoin. No, you can't talk about what needs to be done to make distributed DNS work without talking a little about what's wrong with Namecoin. Derrick, you had a question, sir?
Yeah, well, the Fiendphone license came out. That wasn't what we were initially licensed it under. It was something else. We changed it to
it was the Stallman license.
BipCoin license, yeah.
That horrible virus of a license.
But we did originally release Meowbit under the Beast Lake Internet Policy Commission outreach team brand.
BipCoin. Yeah, BipCoin.
Which shows that we really have a long history of telling you that you're doing the internet wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah, you mentioned Fiendphone there. You guys just have project after project, and it's all great stuff. Fiendphone just saves a ton of money for a bunch of people. And just even your website, Fiendphone, I've been through there several times, just reading up on the audio tutorials. I'm wearing these Sony headphones on your recommendation, so.
Yeah, I've been doing audio. I'm 52. I've been basically learning to record and doing home audio since the 70s, and for what I could do. And I never had a lot of money, so I've basically learned how to do really high quality audio for very little money. And one of my hobbies is teaching that to other people, especially libertarians and anarcho-capitalists and anarchists without adjectives, just because I feel like, and I feel this way about everything, and it kind of drives everything I do and why I do so many projects for free, donation based, never seek investors because I don't want to be beholden to anybody. Basically, I feel that liberty is never going to be really, really mainstream as long as everyone's audio sounds like crap. Like it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's not rocket science, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to get good audio. And most people doing podcasts spend twice as much on a microphone as I do and sound an eighth as good,
I was at a WordPress conference a few weeks ago, and somebody was talking about podcasting. And one of his ideas or points or whatever was that, you could start in 10 minutes with a $10 headset. And I shed a couple tears because it's technically possible, but even if you spend $80 on the classic, Blue Yeti, that was a disaster for me. That's what I started with.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it collected audio, but from the entire room, from the guy breathing in the corner. So that was a fun thing to get rid of, but. And
my heater, I just went up to turn my heater off because it kicked on. Most people be like, oh, it's cold. It's winter. It's 1 degree. It's 1 degree Fahrenheit in Casper, Wyoming right now. And it's about 64 to 62 degrees. Actually, I'm looking at my thermometer in my room, but I am suffering to make this audio good because I care about it and I want it to sound good. And it's not really suffering because I don't want the listener to suffer. So I got up and turned my heater off when it kicked on just now, and I muted my mic to do it, to walk across the room. You didn't hear it.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, geez.
I'll tell you a problem with WordPress.
The Blue Yeti mute button, that's deadly.
Well, the Blue Yeti is Satan, and it costs twice as much as the mic I recommend, which is the Audio-Technica 2005 USB. There's also 2 other acceptable mics under $75. You can go to fiendphone.com and click on the 20-minute audio school link.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
And it tells you how to do all of that. And, you don't just need the mic and then set it on the table stand that comes with it. You throw that in the trash. You get a microphone stand that goes on the floor that puts it in front of your mouth, and then you put a 99-cent foam pop filter on it, and you're good to go. And then, wear headphones, you have the speakers on, and speak like you're on radio, son.
Yeah,
the thing
exactly.
about WordPress, you said you wanted to put the BipCoin license in the header of something on WordPress plugin.
Right.
I love that. And if you send me an email with a link to it, I'll add you on the BipCoin no government license site as something that's licensed. We collect them all
right.
as we can. And there are big things like Cell 411, it's 100,000 users, and it's changing the world and eliminating the need for cops. That's licensed BipCoin no government license. And Virgil, the creator of it, will yell at cops on the internet when they review his thing. They'll be like, you violated the license by reviewing this, by giving, they say it's a threat to the police. But here's the thing, the WordPress plugin site, WordPress.com, when you put a plugin on there and download it, people can download it automatically. You cannot use the BipCoin license. You can include it in the text or the description of the headers, but it's not acceptable. And because it's not considered open source, even though the source is open. The Open Source Initiative yelled at me for calling it open source, and apparently they are the central scrutinizers of the open source world. They told me I couldn't call it open source, or to please stop calling things licensed BipCoin open source and quit calling it an open source license because it is not open to the government or the police.
Yeah, there's got to be a loophole in there, though. I mean, are the police really people? So it still is open to all people.
Ooh. Wow, them's droning words, son. Yeah, because a friend of ours made a really cool WordPress plugin called Fiend Ban, which he put on that. You can get it on there, and it basically does hell banning. You know what hell banning is? It's the best kind of banning there is.
I don't think so.
It's where when commenters are bothering you and you hell ban them, they can still post, but no one else can see their posts. It's maddening. Trolls.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
nice.
That was my idea.
You had mentioned that term over a year ago, but recently I've noticed sites are doing what they're calling shadow banning.
Same thing.
What the difference is between
same thing.
I mean, it's just like the Reddit word for it or something.
So Derrick, really quick, since we've done a bunch of projects together, and I'm not a programmer, but I come up with ideas and I work proactively and write kick-ass tutorials and everything that goes with it. Would you recommend that programmers do projects with us and with me? Am I an ogre, or am I someone who's rewarding to work with, or a little bit of both, or honestly, we're trying to bring people in?
Yeah, I mean, you know where you want to go, and you find a way to get people there, regardless of what their skills and aptitudes are, and absolutely. I mean, we've done some good things. I mean, it does take certain types of people work well together, and some don't, and I know that you've run into people that you don't work well with, like the developer that you had initially on the Free Speech Me project. That didn't work out too good.
He was a Namecoin dev team, that's why.
But I mean, I think the biggest issue was that you guys wanted to go in two different directions, and Michael, you really know where you want to go, and you have a vision, and the projects that I've worked on you with have been a lot of fun.
Well, I wanted to go to the direction of getting adoption. You didn't want to go in that direction.
I don't know everything about you, Michael, but if you're talking about being an ogre, that made me think of a post you did somewhere about why you're no longer supporting Fiend Phone. And then maybe that's the kind of stuff that,
I support it, but I don't do tech support for it for free.
Yeah, that's what I meant, right.
Because basically, so to get that thing made, before I really knew Derrick, I had complete vision in my mind of what it had to be, what the criteria had to be. Tried to find people to do it, didn't have money to do it. Basically was like, this thing needs to exist in the world. What it is free software, not in the Stallman sense, but in the sense of it costs no money and the source is open, that allows people to speak point to point, unlike Skype that goes through a central server, adds latency, and basically you can use all your bandwidth for it, and there's no noise control. So you have to have good headphones. You can't use it with a speaker. Like Skype is made to sound okay with any system. Phone is made to only sound good with a decent mic and headphones, which don't cost a lot. But there's a little, like, I would never recommend Fiend Phone for a show that like Tom Woods, who interviews someone different every day. He has to use Skype because it takes like an hour and a half to get somebody up and perfect. I can do it in 10 minutes, but to get somebody perfect with it, there's a learning curve, but it's perfect for a show with 2 or more hosts who don't, have other guests on usually who are not in the same location. And it
a
replaces
regular site-to-site connection.
Right. And it replaces a $1,500 to $3,000 piece of equipment called a Comrex that radio stations use for remotes and for remote hosts. And it does about 95% of as good of a job as that very expensive piece of equipment. And that cost of the equipment is per user. Like each person on each end needs one.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it replaces that, for free. So I really thought this needed to exist to help my show, The Freedom Fiends, which has between 10 and 20 hosts at a time, but not at the same time, like 2 or 3 a night, but we have a rotating cast of a lot of hosts. And so I needed it for that, but I also wanted to help Liberty, help other shows sound better, to help get people to the idea of hey, people shouldn't have politicians making up arbitrary rules and cops pointing guns to enforce them is like Martian to most people. So, but if it has good audio, it's Martian with good audio. If it's Martian with horrible audio, they're not going to listen for 10 seconds. So Derek, I finally got Derek to want to do it, and I tried to raise money to help do it. We did 2 Indiegogos, raised probably a total of, I don't know, $1,400 or $1,600. Most of it went to Derek. He did about $10,000 worth of work, and we released it as our gift to the world. Then I spent 2 years doing free tech support to try to get more adoption of it. It has adoption, but more people want to use it. And it's kind of tricky. So I ended up doing free tech support for people. Occasionally one would send me $5 or $2 or say thank you or link us on their website. But a lot of times,
or say they were going to send you money and then not send it.
Oh yeah. Several times, people paid me to do extensive, set this up, and I was like, okay, $75, and I do a couple hours work. They'd be like, great, it's working fine. My radio station, and they'd never send me the money.
Oh man.
And that combined with people doing tech support is hell. It's hellish. Do you guys do it?
That's not in my job description, but as a web developer and the only tech person at my company, all the time.
As a WordPress plugin developer, I bet you do it a lot.
Yeah. And it not at all my favorite.
Here's what I find too. How people in general are decent, but 1 in 10 will be really snitty with you and yell at you even when you try to do them a favor for free. It's 4 times that much with stuff for podcasting and radio, because think about who wants to podcast and radio. People who think they're important enough that other people should listen to them.
Oh, definitely.
True.
Yeah.
True. Like Tim. Yeah, right.
My opinions matter.
So I finally blocked comments on the website and removed the ability to comment. And actually, WordPress is so peace, love, everyone should have free speech even on your property. It's great software. It's world changing, but it's made by Frisco hippies. And I used to live in Frisco. I know that species. They don't make it easy to remove every comment ever and remove the ability to comment ever again.
Yeah,
that's hard.
That bugs every site I've ever worked on.
There's a plugin. You need a plugin called Shut the Fuck Up. It just does that. Really, I think you would get donations for that, for people that are sick of tech support. Just shut the fuck up. But really, you got to make it clear that without comments, a WordPress installation.
Man, that is just on the name. Get that in the WordPress store, man.
Fuck up.
Yeah, I don't know if they let it in the repo, but if I'm selling it anyway.
That's a million BipCoin idea, man. You can have it. Free.
Oh yeah,
Bip got it.
Yes. So I guess we still have a lot to dive into with BipCoin. Are we good to roll back there?
That's Derek. I'll be back in a minute. My cat got fixed today. I really got to go check up. He's not
all
happy.
Right.
Hi,
Have you heard about BipCoin? Not Bitcoin, but BipCoin. Bravo, India, Papa, Coin. BipCoin is a new cryptocurrency that you can start mining today for free on ordinary computers. Unlike most altcoins, BipCoin is not a clone of Bitcoin. BipCoin is based on entirely new, more recent, and better code called CryptoNote. So unlike Bitcoin, BipCoin has truly untraceable transactions, and we're working on adding distributed DNS functionality to BipCoin. We're calling this .Bip, and it will provide uncensorable domain names in an easy-to-use interface. Unlike previous systems attempting this, .Bip will be simple for both a website owner and for people viewing websites. This will get it the worldwide adoption we need to keep speech free, and cyber squatting will not be a problem. Please help out with a donation or just share this with your friends. If you can't chip in some cash or Bitcoin to save free speech around the world, because there are incoming regimes that hate honest criticism. Go to BipCoin.org. Once again, that's Bravo, India, Papa, Coin.org.
Derrick, tell us some of the details about BipCoin, why it's better, well, why you like it more than Bitcoin, and why it might even be better than Bytecoin or some of the other CryptoNote coins.
Well, I'm not going to say this or that is better. I mean, it's an anonymous coin, a truly anonymous coin. You know, more like you do better comparing it to Dash than Bitcoin. Although it's primarily just based on Forknote right now with a BipCot no government license. What we'd like to do, of course, is introduce the .Bip. Name resolution service to it, and that's exciting. And why that's better than Namecoin primarily is because we'd like to, make it easier to adopt it.
Yeah. So what are some of the fundamental differences from Namecoin? Because that was one of the biggest topics in the white paper was what some of the flaws with Namecoin. Even though you love Namecoin, it had serious flaws. And so what are the differences? What did you fix in BipCoin in .Bip?
Well, one of the big things we'd like to do with .Bip is to have a registration fee that fluctuates on real world value rather than the value of the coin.
Yeah.
The cost of registering a name in Namecoin was something like 0.02 Namecoin fixed. And as Namecoin's value dropped, it got cheaper and cheaper to register names.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially free to register names. What we plan to do with BipCoin is to tie it to the price of gold so that we're not focusing on, any particular currency. I mean, gold has a pretty much constant value, or has had a pretty much constant value historically, so we can expect that to continue. And if it doesn't, we can affix it to something else. The idea
we could use steel. We could use aluminum. Anything that,
right,
is commonly traded, used every day in commerce and manufacturing. We could use pork bellies. and to make it clear, we're not doing what some coins have done, which is try to assign a value to a particular unit of our currency, like Steam dollars or Steam plus minus the third, whatever. I don't even understand their thing. And it's
Me neither.
It sounds like a multi-level marketing pitch. It's probably not, but when people try to explain the different Steam dollars and Steam units and Steam, I'm like, this sounds like it's made up to confuse people. But so like Steam dollars or something in Steam is supposed to be pegged in value to the US dollar, which is kind of bizarre because and other currencies have tried to do that, but it's like, you don't decide that.
I don't think it's possible to do that. Us pegging the registration fee of a name to gold is going to have a stabilizing effect on it, but it's not going to stick it to a
right. Let me finish
to a value.
Let me finish that thought. Okay, so we're not saying a BipCoin will be worth $1. Somebody misunderstood that, like in the white paper. No. And it's very clear in the white paper, but people read what they want, think what they want when they read it. So, somebody actually, there's something called PEEP coin, PEEP coin, that has a 200-page thread on BitcoinTalk.org. It's hilarious. The thing, I think the only usually they delete things that look scammy, but I think this looked so hilariously scammy that the moderators were like, let's leave this up for shits and giggles. And one of the things in there, it's there's no wallet, there's no coin. It's basically and it's on exchanges. Like the guy paid to get this on exchanges, but there's no coin, there's no wallet, there's no blockchain. And it's basically like an Excel spreadsheet on this guy's computer. And he's like, the first 1 million PEEP coins, they'll be worth $1, but I'm only selling them for like 20 cents. And like, this is the funniest post I've ever seen on Bitcoin Talk. And there's some funny ones. Somebody quoted the guy saying, a PEEP coin is worth $1. He quoted just that part of it instead. That's not how any of this works.
Can we get this link in the show notes,
guys? I was
Because
just going to say that.
This.
Yeah, it'll be there.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, that's what, like, not to pick on Steemit because, they're like worth billions of dollars because they've got the Chinese government investing in them. But, well, don't they? I mean, but I'm basically saying that we're not trying to say that any amount of BipCoin will be worth this amount of gold. What we're saying is like, when I wrote the white paper in November this year, I looked at the price of gold and was like, okay, this, that. So I basically thought long and hard about this and thought a good price to register a domain would be $8 and half that for the first year of like what $8 was in November of 2016. And that was an amount that was like too much to really have. I mean, people will still squat stuff. They'll still go get like computer.bip and drugs.bip, but they're not going to run the dictionary. They're not going to run the dictionary through and register every name like literally happened the first month of Namecoin and squatting all of them. Nobody's going to do that. They're not going to squat they're not going to squat much at $8. But it's not too little and it's not too much. It's a good amount. So anybody who can basically, if you can afford like web hosting on a cheap web host, you can afford $8 for a domain.
Right.
And we're tying it to what $8 worth of gold, like in the price in gold. So the software will check the price of gold on a bunch of websites for what it is that day and tag it to like say, okay, $8 worth of 2016 November, $8 of gold would buy this many BipCoin today. So that's going to be the price of registering a domain today.
Okay. I'm following a little bit, but I need a metaphor or a scenario. So let me ask you this. Are you saying that in November, what's the actual number? That is it? What, a couple grams or something is worth
200 milligrams? 200 milligrams of gold. That's the price. So, always to register a domain in .bib, except for the first year, it'll be half that. But let's just say forget that part. So
you're running like a
for a year
for people to do it early
for a year registration.
Okay, is that for? Okay, so let's say, the price of gold doubles next year. The price will still be 200 milligrams, right? Yeah, because doubling or halving, 50% or 200% wouldn't really be that much of a problem. It would still be doable. Yeah. Gold doesn't do that though. Right. I'm not worried about that. I'm just trying to figure out what, how the price. Basically, if it's within 50% either way of that, it's going to be okay. If it's $6 or $12.
I've seen the cost of domain registrations go from $40 to $7, over the last decade and a half. Yeah. And SSLs have gone down a lot, but it's not an order of magnitude change. Gold isn't likely going to move an order of magnitude. Yeah, and registering with Namecoin was in huge orders of magnitude, and I'm not exaggerating, but along the lines of like the what was the Republic in Germany before Hitler, where like they were burning. Yeah, when they were burning where they were burning money to stay warm because it was worth more than firewood. Yeah, like the order of magnitude, like in 1 month at one point, the price went from so low to so high to so low with Namecoin. It was a 4,500% change, which is unacceptable because that goes from you squat everything because it's so cheap to you don't really want to buy a domain because it's too expensive. That's what we're trying to avoid by pegging to gold. But it was also always very cheap, really. Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
For a minute, it was kind of expensive, but
so I'm not. That all makes sense, and I'm not super worried about price swings. But there's still one missing link for me in terms of how the pricing is set. Is there? So if it's 200 milligrams of gold always, that's fine. That makes a lot of sense. And does that mean that you also, in order to get the price of a domain name in BipCoin, you have to figure out gold to BipCoin, basically, which means probably from gold to dollars and then dollars to BipCoin?
Yes.
Okay.
It could be gold to dollars or gold to euro. Either would work, but yeah.
Well, you're not going from dollars. Yeah, you just need the BipCoin amount of the current registration.
Yeah, you just need some way to get from gold to BipCoin.
Yeah. You don't really need to do this as a person who's using the software and registering the domain. You're going to know how many BipCoin at any particular time it's going to cost to register a domain in the next block.
Exactly.
What we'll do is build the price of that name registration based on the price of gold into the consensus rules. And
so can you tell me more about that? That was a big part of the white paper. And I'll be completely honest, it sounds like a big hurdle to make that reliable, but just tell me more. I want to know.
Well, you may have, if there's large price swings in gold, you may have some consensus issues. What we need to do is have a window of which, it's 200 milligram-ish.
Yeah, and if it goes like too far away from that price, like, say 75% either way, it just goes with the last good price until it adjusts.
So that'll be a rule for block acceptance and not for transactions, because the price of registering will always be published in the last block.
So how are they gonna find the price of gold? I read it, but I wanna just get it out there.
Well, that's something that will probably have to evolve along the way as things change, but it's a pretty known thing, and there's a lot of other, blockchain-based systems which are looking to price blockchain events, I guess you'd say, into, trying to get real-world events into the blockchain via consensus.
The way that I've come up to do with it,
going to be discoverable. I should be able to say, I can't do it right now, but I should be able to go to my Amazon Echo and say, what is the price of gold?
Yep. Oh yeah.
She doesn't actually do it right now, but there's a lot of things out. There's a lot of services out there. The default Google search is going to return the price of gold.
Yep.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to rely on source, though, of course.
The way originally I was thinking of doing it with APIs from a bunch of gold, selling places, but I looked into that. We actually have a friend who runs a precious metals place, Robertson Roberts, who said he'd let us use his, but we would need more than one. And then I looked at it, and actually, unlike cryptocurrency APIs, which are usually free, like most exchanges are like, yes, here's our API, please make apps. Most gold APIs want to charge you money, at least for the up to minute ones. But we wouldn't have to be up to the minute. Gold is stable enough that yesterday's price or even 5 days ago's price would work. It just the plan I have so far. Right. I think checking the price of gold once a week and the price of BipCoin once every 8 hours would be fine. And I think I wouldn't do it much more than that, because you would probably end up.
We could do a 5 day average. It's whatever consensus rules we haven't spec'd this out yet.
Right.
But
right.
It's very doable.
Right.
And really
I've come up with
the specifics are just a balance of overhead for the miners versus accuracy.
If I sound like I'm getting frustrated, I'm not frustrated with Derrick. I'm frustrated with Skype, because I'm so used to using PhonePhone. And with PhonePhone, you can talk naturally. It's true duplex. So you can kind of you don't cut the other person off when you start talking. It's weird. Right. It's just more natural.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get a word in, when Derrick doesn't even talk a third as much as me, but I'm like, really quick. I want to get this before we move on. I can answer your question. Here's the way to get the price of gold without using APIs that cost money, that would probably cut you off. if you started using them. And I believe that this is a killer thing that's so simple. It took me, a non-programmer, to come up with it. This is the kind of stuff that programmers would way overthink. And I think that people should start adopting this for everything, for getting real world events into blockchain stuff. So if you have a list, if the daemon had a list of, say 20 search engines, and there's a lot more than just Google, and there's ones that aren't even in English. But even if you go to a Chinese search engine and you type the phrase gold price in US dollars per ounce, that exact phrase, I messed around with a bunch of phrases, that phrase in English without quotes on any website in any language, the first page of what it returns, over half of them will be in dollars, in numbers, the current price of gold, and they're all within 5% of each other. So if you have a list of 20 common, or even 50, search engines, including Chinese ones that were all in Chinese, they return this in dollars. You just get the first 5 of them, and you take any result on the first page of what would be the first page in a browser, but not, in the daemon. It would be, you take anything that has a dollar sign followed by, numerical digits, and you stop at the decimal place, and you take that amount and average it. I guarantee, I bet Bitcoin to BipCoin, you're going to have within 5% of the price of gold right now.
Yeah. So, I love that idea. Because I read all about it, and I mean, at Gold APIs, I've been there too, because we have some tools on our site that convert from Bitcoin to millibits to euros to yuan or whatever. And
pretty soon it'll be Bitcoin to gold. That'll be common.
Yeah. And I had gold and silver. I hope they're still working. I ended up just having to scrape the price from some site, and so I like that idea. I know it's necessary, but I have one more question. What do you do, even if the websites and the search engines are reliable, and you can trust that you got enough of them so that they can't really manipulate them or anything? And even if you do that, what happens when different people's averages vary at all, even if they vary by 1 cent? What then? Well, who decides the consensus there?
Well, I think it's really similar to the Bitcoin transaction fee, that you can put in a low enough fee that your transaction will never get confirmed, right? So you put in a little bit extra. The wallet can say, we see the last block was at, whatever bips for a domain registration. Hey, maybe we won't get into the next block. Maybe we should add another 5% just to be sure.
Okay.
It's not going to be that expensive.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it could be a wallet recommendation. I mean, it's really just, we're just basing this on consensus rules. You've got to have this much to get into the next block. We don't know about the block following, but it's probably going to be pretty close, especially if we do a 5-day rolling average. The blocks are every, minute and a half. So is that right?
Every 2 minutes, but of course it varies.
2 minutes. Yeah.
With the hash power of the network, like any cryptocurrency or most. I'm sure there's one out there that's decided that their unique thing is going to be, we won't do that, but it would make it hard to mine.
We'll recalculate every block. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't, non-recalculate coin. Here's an idea. It's a bad idea, but no, here's my idea too of how this will look. What it'll look like is, and there's different ways this can be done. The one I've come up with would be, the daemons would have a random number generator that when it's time to check the price of gold or BipCoin, the nodes would all return a random number, so they wouldn't all try to check it once. And the first time, once 5 are returned that are within a consensus rule, meaningful, realistic, difference.
Okay.
Basically, they're actually the price of gold. Then it tells all the other ones to stop checking with the next block.
Okay. Yeah, this is all new stuff, and I like the ideas. I still think it could be a little tough to play out. I mean, with all the heated debates over just the block size, in Bitcoin, it seems like
that's why we're not trying to do this on Bitcoin. We're doing it with a different, people do stuff on Bitcoin that puts things on the blockchain, but it makes people want to murder you. It really does. I mean, they're like, that blockchain's ours, and really a blockchain is anybody's unless it's one of these fintech bank blockchains, that I don't even call that blockchains. I say that a blockchain isn't really a blockchain if you have to see my driver's license for me to participate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
like this, the BipCoin blockchain is not ours. It's anyone who's using it, but, not enough people are using it, this thing we made, that people are going to want to lynch us if we try to change it at this point. So,
right. Yeah.
And we also, instead of starting a new coin, we're starting with a coin that's a few months old because we have miners, we have like between 40 and 80, kilohash per second of mining at a time. You can send 10,000 bips and they confirm almost immediately, almost every time, like better than Bitcoin, which has way too many transactions and growing pains for the number of nodes because there's not really that much incentive to run nodes for a lot of people versus, a new coin, which would have nothing, would start with no right. nodes. So I think it makes sense to use an existing coin that's little, but big enough that things are working, and it's been working, well.
Yeah, I agree that makes sense. It
also should be a CryptoNote coin, really, because, and it should be something covered by the BipCoin no government license.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to run your I won't call this an anti-government thing, but it's a extra government thing. Like it's a parallel road away from their road. Like, I don't need that. Let's do our thing.
Right.
You really should license which really describes every blockchain project except the fintech ones that need a driver's license to drive on their roads. Literally a copy of your driver's license, because they're using them for that kind of banking. But yeah, humans.
So Michael, can government employees resolve .bip names?
Yeah, it depends. There's the latest version of the BipCoin no government license, which you can read by going to bipcoin.org. We added what we call the mailman exception. Didn't you name it that, Derrick? I think you did.
I did not, no.
Okay, but I like that name.
No,
so basically,
another fiend.
Basically in the world we live in, so many people, such a high percentage of people have some tacit connection to working for the government or contracting or something, that we put in a thing that basically says, and it's called Section 8. It's Part 8 of the license, but it's named after the welfare government housing stuff, Section 8. So Section 8 basically says your mailman and future Snowdens can use this because how are they going to learn otherwise? But, it's still forbidden for people who carry a gun for the government. I carry a gun, but I'm anti-gun for government. I don't want.
Yeah.
So if you carry a gun or order the guns of government or finance the guns for government, or you're one of these brutes from one of these 3-letter government, agencies, you still can't use it. Now, Section 8 at the end of it says, unless removed by the license holder. So Section 8. You're allowed to and encouraged if you want. If you're a real stickler, if you're one of these, I'm such an anarchist, I don't drive on the roads, people, then you can remove Section 8.
So is Section 8 housing, is that at all related to a military Section 8?
No, but they're both bad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
actually, a Section 8 would be great if you don't want to be in the military, like Klinger.
Yeah, exactly. That's the first thing I
thought.
I
remember. I thought that was Section 8.
Yeah. Bugging for a Section 8. So that's what the mailmen need. They need to be let out.
Section 8.
Exactly.
Yeah. Although I think you could dress like Klinger and still be a mailman now. I think that's protected speech.
You definitely could.
See,
this is how I feel like going to people's houses.
Like the reason that people should care about distributed DNS and, share our thing, share other things. If someone's really looking like they're approaching solving this, and the only thing that's keeping us from solving this is having another programmer or two and having some money. And we have an Indiegogo going. You can go to bipcoin.org read the white paper. You should, even if you never read a white paper. It's half white paper and half manifesto, and it's not that technical. It's fun to read. It's like Billy's first white paper, not the writing of it, but the reading of it. And BipCoin is also a good coin. Like a lot of people who've never even transacted in Bitcoin are mining BipCoin because it's friendly. It's the only fun dark cryptocurrency too. But it's also
nice.
like what I do for a living is I write technical manuals for O'Reilly Media and a few other places. And you know, I've gotten really good. I'm the guy, like if you read any of the reviews of my books on Amazon, they all say like, you know, a third of the reviews say some variation of like, I love the tone of this book, the way it's written. It's like having it's not like a technical book. It's like having a friend sit down and explain it to you, which is one thing that BipCoin has going for us that a lot of cryptocurrencies don't, is really easy to read tutorials that also like don't insult the intelligence of intermediate or advanced users and are structured in a way that it's easy to skip to that. But it's like the beginning part, you know, when I say, okay, you know, open a command prompt, I say, here's what a command prompt is and how to open one. No other coins do that, you know? So.
Yeah, I remember struggling through the build instructions for Bitcoin the first time I tried to build it, and it was just a nightmare. You know, and that was pretty well written compared to some of these other coins. MadeSafe. Oh man, did I try to compile MadeSafe? I don't think I ever did.
MadeSafe is one of those. Here's the thing, like all people also say like, well, MadeSafe has a plan for distributed DNS and distributed, like, you know, here's the thing, like, can you use it yet? Does anyone use it? Like, It's all about adoption, man. The other thing is too, like MadeSafe is a corporation. They have like, you know, a corporate charter. They have, I think maybe even an office, but if they don't, like they are incorporated, they have patents protecting their stuff. And I don't really have a problem with that stuff defensively. Like I don't have a problem with the idea of a corporation even, you know, well, I had the problem with the idea of it because and it's not a sovereign citizen thing like, oh, it's magical and fictitious. No, I have a problem with like that it grants special powers that absolve people of responsibility sometimes of things they should have responsibility for. But in this world, since you don't have, like, you can't actually convene a BipCot court, you know, since you have to go through their system, like, I can see having a corporation for things, but not for distributed DNS, not for the thing that's going to free you from the government. And that's my problem with Steem. It's my problem with probably Zcash. It's my problem with MadeSafe. A lot of the top 10 and top 20 market cap coins are basically corporate blockchains. And also like things like Steemit, like, you know, it's supposed to be censor proof, but the people running it can keep stuff off the website they don't like. Right. And also their vote has way too much power to like bury other stuff. So it's not distributed. It's you know, it's not decentralized. It's distributed, but it's not foolproof. Like nobody can kill Bitcoin. And I'd say nobody can kill a lot of cryptocurrencies. But those corporate blockchains, like, you know, the right amount of like district attorneys and, you know, FBI agents really gunning for them could shut them down. You can't shut down Bitcoin. And I want to do this in a way that like the dev team is irrelevant in a year or 3, you know, like,
oh yeah,
I don't want us needed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we got to, let's bring it back to the Indiegogo and anything else that you need to share, Michael. Where can they find that? Is it through the BipCoin website?
Yeah, the easiest way to get to all this stuff is BipCoin.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, coin.org. And I do spell it phonetically with the government way of spelling things because people know it and they understand it. And it's better than saying, Betty, D like Diane. No, like some people know. In LibPair, in Libertarian Paradise, I think that the NATO alphabet will still be used because it works.
All right.
But another thing to answer, like, what else do you want to know about it? A thing I'd like to tell you about it that's different. Okay, like Namecoin, those people got mad when people made open source services on top of their open source software. I'll talk about OneName, Derek, a little bit.
Yeah, oh yeah. They ended up fleeing from the Namecoin blockchain and moved over to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And for various reasons, but they weren't ever really welcomed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we want adoption. We're not going to go, oh, we don't want, we're not going to make it for Windows. No, make it for Windows first.
Right.
That's what most people use, and then make it for Android, and then later make it for Linux. But no, actually we have CLI and GUI wallets for Windows and Linux already. But, one thing that we're doing really different from Namecoin. So Namecoin, for some reason, by the way, do you guys know that Satoshi Nakamoto had a lot to do with the creation of Namecoin?
I did not know that.
If you read the white paper, you do. It's a footnote in our white paper, and it's got a link to the BitcoinTalk.org.
Oh, I did read that part, where he said it was possible,
basically
right.
Somebody we've never heard of, Apamato, his username, came up with this idea, said, hey, could we put DNS on the Bitcoin, BTC, blockchain, so the governments can't censor it? And 4 posts later, Satoshi Nakamoto, who had not yet gone dark, chimed in and said, let's do it on a different network, but it could share CPU power. So in one sentence, he created altcoins and merged mining and then left. So Namecoin came along, a bunch of really brilliant programmers who probably walk out in the snow without a coat and catch cold because they're too busy thinking about math. They came along and ran with it. And the main thing, there's 2 other main things that will do different that they didn't do. So they didn't worry about a resolver for 3 years. We're going to have the resolver built into the wallet, and it's going to work for the whole system and not just a browser like the thing that Namecoin made. Derrick already built this. He built something called MeowBit for Namecoin, and it's going to be really easy to fix that over to work for BipCoin, for .Bip. Basically, it turns your whole computer into resolving, for the alternate blockchain. It'll work, the addresses will work on any browser, FTP, email, instant messenger, anything. The other thing we're going to do different is we're not going to burn the money, is the best way to put it. So basically, Namecoin were a bunch of math geeks. They couldn't figure out what to do with the money, with the Namecoin paid into the system for registration. And also there's some guys on that team that kind of lean left, I would say. They were could we partner with the United Nations? Could we partner with Google? Could we partner? No, you don't partner with anybody for distributed DNS, So basically when you register a .bit domain on Namecoin, the Namecoin you pay into the system to do it is destroyed. The BIP coin paid into this system is going to go 80% to the developers and 20% to some charities, including freeros.org and antiwar.com. That makes so much more sense than destroying the money and then begging for money like they do to keep it going.
For the first couple years.
Yeah, for the first 3 years is the plan.
On that.
And then basically the idea is to if there are people that can take this over, they take it over. Or it could go to the miners or any number of things. But I think it should go to developers, not necessarily us. It should go to whoever's developing it.
Once established, I'm really a proponent of having to go to the miners, because when we talked about, people registering all kinds of names, and people still may do that. But when it's going back to the miner, to good organizations, to development, or back to the miners, it's supporting the network. So when people are doing that, you've got the resources to build out the network. Yeah,
there's nobody paying Bitcoin developers to work out of Bitcoin, So you're right. It won't really be needed at that point of the point of having a good chance at really wide adoption, to the point where when someone says, what's your .bit address? They might say, I don't have one, but they're not going to say, what's that? They're going to say, oh, I've been meaning to get one of those. That's where I want to be in 3 years.
Yeah. I'll be honest again. It seems like a point of contention to decide, especially in the future, if you have a ton of users, what happens to this money or how the transition is made. I mean, will you have to hard fork?
Yeah.
And same thing with the gold price and everything. Yeah. But I wish you the best.
Yeah, I really think that needs to be built in before release, to say, whatever the time frame is for going to the developers and the charities, and then after that, after X block, it goes to, if we change to the miners, that's going to be built in ahead of time. You're not going to get consensus 3 years from now to do that. It's got to be in the code, you know, day one, I believe. Yeah. I think agree. You have the same concern that I do.
I think you would get consensus. I don't think you'd have to build it in, because I think you'd have consensus from the miners, because it would be hundreds of thousands of miners versus, say, me being the one person saying, no, I want the developers to keep it. Somebody would just hard fork it, and, 80% of the, I could be written out of the equation.
There's still a possibility, though, that all the miners are also the developers. I mean, we can't assume the consensus is going to be easy. Satoshi assumed that, with raising the block size.
Yeah. He also, I don't think he pictured it getting adopted as widely as quickly either. And I think he also kind of maybe thought it was sort of a proof of concept, but made it so well that it just became the thing. It didn't need to be improved on until, CryptoNote. And there are a few people who've suggested that the pseudo-anonymous person who created CryptoNote and dropped the code on GitHub might be Satoshi, because it's like improvements in the Bitcoin idea in a way that doesn't go off on a thing like Ethereum, where it's a whole system or a whole new way of building everything, like made safe. Those are different species. Those are different dimensions. Namecoin is the same family tree as Bitcoin. And I would say CryptoNote is too. It's just kind of like an advanced, alteration morph.
Yeah. I wouldn't say you make a bad case for that. I just think that, you remove speculation. You remove the need to speculate when you code it in ahead of time.
Okay.
When you have that.
Yeah. And even, a hard fork, it's hard to just expect people to hard fork, because that alone is a point of contention. With Ethereum and everything, a lot of people think hard forks are bad. And I even agree in some ways. I would definitely think it'd be better to have some of that organized ahead of time instead of just planning in the future.
Yeah. I said that there should be an Ethereum podcast called The Daily Hard Fork.
Yeah. Exactly. And you talk about switching metals and stuff. Also, though, if this thing turned into two different systems, is that the end of the world? That basically means it's people, a lot of people with a lot of hash power saying, no, you're wrong. This is the other way to do it. It's really, you've ended up with two ecosystems. So maybe you'd end up with, .bit being the equivalent of the .com, and then somebody else creating the equivalent of, I don't know, not the .gov, but something else. I don't know. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's it could happen.
Yeah, we definitely seen that, when fear tactics are very effective when money is on the line, and there's a lot of, there's a lot of room for speculation, I think.
Right.
And, people that don't understand anything about how Bitcoin works have been successfully terrified by one side or the other on the whole block size.
Oh,
limit,
yeah.
Right.
And just the word hard fork has come to terrify people too. And understanding, the software, it's not that scary to me. Things are going to settle out, but people have money on the line and they're easily terrified.
I've said a few times, and I stole this line from John Stossel. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of him just because I don't know him that well, but I heard him say this once, something like, I'm not a climate change skeptic. I'm a climate catastrophe skeptic. And that's what I say about the block size. I'm a block size catastrophe skeptic. Yeah, maybe one is bad, but I don't think it's going to be a catastrophe. So,
hey, I lived through Y2K.
Exactly. Me too.
Y2K through 2012 through 2016 election. We're doing good.
But that's another reason too that people should get this election is a reason that people should get behind, if not us, then somebody who's going to do this right. And I think we have a good chance of doing it right. I think we've thought of things that no one else has addressed. And also, one of the problems with educating people about the need for this is a lot of people think it's solved. Like, that's a reason that I bash the Namecoin devs, especially, but not the devs so much, but the coin, because a lot of people who know about cryptocurrencies, when you say, yeah, we're trying to build this distributed DNS thing, they're like, oh, Namecoin already does that. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. You can do it in a sort of a laboratory setting, but nobody uses it. Right. I want adoption. And the second thing is too, like, America just elected a president who has like threatened on the campaign trail to silence journalists. This is the time to do it, not down the line. And a lot of people's problem with adopting protective measures is they're a little busy. It takes a couple minutes. You got to do something. But it's like, my analogy is people who say, oh, I don't need a gun and stockpile some food and water. I mean, I'm not even against it. I can see the point of it, but I got to buy these new speakers. And if things start getting bad, I'll buy a gun and learn to use it and get some food. And I'm like, you won't be able to, and you won't be able to get enough people, like if they really start clamping down hard on websites, like, you're not going to be able to develop this even if you have the money, because you're going to get like, shut down with the many methods that people have to do that. That's all I'm saying, man.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, it's too late at that point.
Yeah, exactly, Tim. That's what I was going to say. Is that these things won't really be adopted widely until there's a market need for them. But when there is a market need for them, you want to have a solution available, because a solution will be needed then. We won't have 2 to 6 months
I would be
to
happy,
roll out something that works.
I would be happy for us to develop this and get it working, and only have 1,000 or 500 adopters like actually using it. That's not enough to really say it's got adoption. It's certainly more than Namecoin ever had using it for anything other than buying and selling currency speculatively. But 500 to 1,000 people is enough like proof of concept to where, like, when Trump sends the Department of Justice to just take a bunch of websites that people like, when they take Free Ross and a few other sites like that, like when they start taking sites people know that aren't breaking any laws, that aren't harming anybody, that aren't even doing anything illegal with no due process, when it's not some pirate site, selling knockoff sunglasses, when it's not, something cool like the Pirate Bay, when it's actually just like people's blogs with opinions, when that starts going down in mass, if there's 500 or 1,000 people like adopting this software to the point of it's proving it's worked and we've worked out a bunch of bugs, that's enough, because at that point, even if they're taking down our website, we can throw it on some torrents and people could get it if we can get the word out,
Right. Yeah, it sounds great, and it could be a huge tool for any situation like that where there's censorship and people want to get around it. So I hope it works out. I'll be keeping an eye on it, and I wish you the best. I think we're ready to wrap up here pretty soon, and if so, can you tell us once more where people should go to find out more and participate?
Yeah, they should go to BipCoin.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, coin.org. And I'd recommend they poke around on the site a little bit, maybe download some, check out the Indiegogo, even if and read the white paper, or at least read a couple pages of the white paper. If it doesn't, money back guarantee. If you don't like it, your free money is returned. But,
fun white paper.
What's that, Derek?
I said it's a fun white paper. It's not not one of those dry technical papers. It's well written. And
thanks. And the other thing I would recommend is that people mine and buy some BipCoin. And this is not a pump and dump. I am planning on holding my BipCoin for eternity. And I'm actually like, people can buy on our site. They can buy buttons and stickers in BipCoin. I'm trying to get more. I'm mining it. And I'm selling things for it, but if this succeeds, it's going to be a lot more than 1.6 cents on exchanges for BipCoin,
All right.
Really.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I would say go get a bunch of BipCoin, because, you'll get fabulously wealthy.
All right, yeah, check it out. It's
Fabulously wealthy.
Allegedly.
That's my new app. Allegedly and I'll
Not a guarantee.
yeah. I made this app. It's called Not a Guarantee /Lolberts. I made it for my friend's podcast, the Lolberts, which is a kind of jokey, fun libertarian podcast, and I just thought it'd be fun to have that. You know, it also plays the podcast, but it also plays me saying allegedly, and the host of the show, Jim Jesus, saying not a guarantee.
Yeah,
because he says that in our original BipCoin radio ad. We've changed it now that we've added in, you know, the plan for .bip that takes up the second half of it. But it used to say at one point, like, yes, mine some, you'll make money. And then it's got Jim saying, not a guarantee.
Well, I'll get that for Tim, you know, automatically play it after everything he says, because you can't trust a word of it. So
Not a guarantee.
Oh, there's a loop. I won't play it and bother you guys while you're trying to wrap up, but there's also a function called Shut Up Jim and Shut Up Michael, where it plays his thing and my thing on a loop. Just walk around at conventions spouting things to people while playing that. You're covered.
Actually,
you know, you're covered legally.
Yeah, exactly.
Allegedly.
Oh, geez. Well, hey, it sounds great, guys. I love all of your projects. BipCoin, BipCot, Fiend Phone, Lolberts app, whatever. It all sounds great, you know. So thanks so much for joining us and sharing all about all this.
Thanks,
audio tips and whatnot, microphones. We covered quite a bit, and it was a ton of fun. I love
cats.
Exactly. I love longer shows, because we used to in the early days we hit an hour pretty often, and I love getting more in depth and just going off on whatever. So thank you so much for being here with us, Mr. Michael W. Dean.
Yep, worms.
And Derrick Slopey. Thanks for joining us today as well. We'd love to have you back sometime.
My pleasure. A lot of fun.
Have him back without me. You'll actually get some answers about how this is going to work.
Well,
right.
it's good to understand that we're still writing the specs. So yeah, we could do another one once we hammer some of these things down. You know, a lot of your questions will be answered better soon, Daniel.
Yeah, a lot of your questions, like we just, you know, I'm going to go edit the white paper because we answered some of them that we didn't have answered before just now.
All right, there it is. We'll put it on the list for a couple months down the line, and we'll have some fun.
Yep, cool, man.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. We're going to wrap it up here. We have John Stewart's music is playing right now, so thanks to him for that. This was episode, I guess, 152, and you can find more at youmeandbtc.com. Peace, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye, everybody.